If you would just take your cell phone and either cut it off or put it on vibrate, that way it won't interfere with somebody else later on. We will, in just a minute, when I call the meeting to order, I'll ask that you stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Then I'll ask that you sit back down, and Commissioner Karen Cheek will lead us in a devotion and call on someone to pray. So at this time, if you would, please stand. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You may be seated.
Well, good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
The title of our devotional this evening is Love Your Neighbor. Jesus tells us in Mark chapter 12, verse 28, that one of the teachers of the law came and heard them debating. And noticing that Jesus had given them a good answer, he asked Jesus, of all the commandments, which is the most important? And Jesus replied, the most important one is this. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. Love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind and with all your strength. And the second is this. Love your neighbor as yourself. There is no commandments greater than these. And our author from Kentucky that wrote this devotional named Zach Fitzpatrick said that he and his wife had moved to a new neighborhood and they were out jogging and they were running through the neighborhood. They were sweaty and dirty, and this couple was standing beside their house and noticed them and stopped them and invited them in to eat supper. And they said, oh, let's go change because we're kind of smelly. But I said, no, just come on in. And they did just as they were. Came in, sat down, had a great dinner, and moved on and went back to their home. And the point is this, that Christ loves us just as we are, smelly and dirty and nasty and all that. And people do take notice when you love as Christ loves. That couple noticed, and the couple that demonstrated Christ's love were noticed by their neighbors. And that's an important thing. And I would like to ask Brian if he would pray.
Dear Lord, we just thank you again for the day and the blessings that came with it. Dear Lord, we just ask now that you give us each the discernment to do what your will is in this meeting, dear Lord, that we be able to go from here, dear Lord, and do the things that you would do. So I'll ask all these blessings in Jesus' name.
Amen. Again, thank y'all for coming to the meeting. The first thing we have on the agenda is the elected officials and department heads. Seeing none at this time, we'll move down to the approval of the minutes. We have the minutes from the October 7th regular meeting. Do we have any additions, corrections, deletions to the minutes?
Motion for approval.
I have a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. Do we have any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, it's unanimous. We'll go to old business. And I believe, turn this over to the county attorney. This is the Wayne Pool tax penalty status report.
At sort of my suggestion, but we looked into these. Mr. Poole has bought in various taxes over the years. Several different properties. I think 5 of them are at issue here. Most of them were bought in 2008 and 2009. I talked to the tax commissioner, talked to the tax collector. The tax commissioner says what this is when someone buys a piece of property, the taxes for the current year are set on January 1st of each year. If you buy it in, the taxes follow the property and you become liable for the taxes at the December payment time, then December 20th, now December 1st. Mr. Poole on those particular properties did not pay the current year taxes. That's what the penalty was for, and that's what the collection was for. That is the same situation that you have had come up from other people, and when there's a lawyer or something, we usually know we get the settlement statement and see that it's prorated and done. There was no lawyer in this. I specifically asked both the tax collector and the tax commissioner, and they say that it is their custom and practice to tell anybody at a tax sale that they will be responsible for the taxes in the current year. That being the case, there was no mistake. I also inquired as to any monies that might have been paid in on the tax sale in excess of the actual taxes owed and whether there would be any credit back Mr. Poole could get for that. And what they do is, by way of example, if there are $100 taxes owed and someone bids $200, they go ahead and pay the $100 in taxes and they put the balance of the money in an account for when they close out the right of redemption. You may remember Mr. Poole said it was his after 4 or 5 years. He never came in and closed out the right of redemption. If the money sits there for over 5 years, it has to be sent to the state. In other words, there's no credit in the accounts to give him on these bills, number one. And number two, the bills he has received and the taxes he has paid are normal taxes that everybody else has to pay as well. That being said, although it's y'all's vote, y'all cannot waive taxes, which he has paid. He is asking you to waive the penalties and assessments, which includes some GTS bills, $165 per property. It's within y'all's authority to do it. If you were to do it, you would be deviating from the policy you have had with other people. But
Okay, does anyone have a question of the attorney concerning this report?
Then I'll make a motion, we take no action on this.
Okay, we have a motion for no action. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, it's unanimous.
since Mr. Poole is not here, would y'all want me to just write him a letter of courtesy explaining to him why y'all made your decision?
Please.
I will.
Okay, we'll move down to Heart of Georgia Regional Airport Authority appointment. Does anyone have a suggestion? What's the pleasure of the board?
I'd like to make a suggestion that we take an ad in the paper publicizing this position and take applications for it, see if anyone is interested.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Do we
second.
have a second? Do we have any discussion? Okay, I guess in the motion, would you work with the paper, come up with that? Okay, is that all right with you?
It's fine.
Okay. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, it's unanimous. We'll go, do we have any other old business from anybody on the Board of Commissioners? Okay, we'll go to new business. If you would, take a minute and look at your approval of accounts payable, look at your accounts payable, and we'll see what questions there are, and then see about approval.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question on check, page 1, check number 13470. It says it's E911 power bill for $7,794. Now, is that just E911 or is that the sheriff's department and everything?
That's E911, the portion of that was $190.42, and the jail's portion was $7,603.70.
Okay, so that was.
It should have been divided, and I caught that and divided it myself before we got to the meeting.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that.
Okay, and
I
other
got one,
questions?
yeah, I got one more. It was the Verizon wireless bill, check number 13517, $1,176. Now, whose phones are those?
Which,
First page.
It's on page 1, I'm sorry, it's on page 1,
Check
Verizon
Verizon.
Verizon wireless, yeah.
Looks like there's several.
There's several of them, but I mean, whose would they be?
the whole county has phones with Verizon, the Sheriff's Department, the Commissioner's Office, all the departments that need phones have it with Verizon.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions from anybody?
One more question.
Oh, I'm
On
sorry,
that,
yeah.
excuse me, on that Verizon, Bobby, do we get a discount? Does Verizon give us a discount, a governmental discount?
Yeah, we get under a government discount, yes.
Okay, I just wanted to, thanks.
Okay, other questions?
Make a motion, we approve.
Have a motion to approve, do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, stands approved. We'll go to Mr. Lance Jones is here, and he wants to discuss the federal court in Dublin.
Okay, I'm Lance Jones, I'm the city attorney in Dublin, but I'm really here as a citizen more than anything else. This is just a map showing the federal district. We're in the southern district of Georgia. It's really more of an eastern district, but they call
Let
it.
me help you by holding that so
Oh,
both
okay.
they and the audience can see it.
Okay, all right. But it's divided into several divisions. And Dodge County, along with Lawrence, Telfair, Wheeler, Montgomery, Treatment, and Johnson, are in the Dublin Division of the Southern District of Georgia. Periodically, it happens about every 3 to 5 years, the federal government decides what they can do to save money is close the courthouse in Dublin. And right now, everybody from Dodge County drives to Dublin to federal court. They've also this past time proposed, and we fought it off this time, so it's not imminent, but they wanted to close the one in Statesboro also. You know, Swainsboro used to have a federal court, they've closed it. But if they do that, right now you drive to Dublin and you're there. If they do that, you drive to Dublin and have another 9,500 miles to go to get to court. And if you've ever been to court for anything, you know, most of the time you go, and the first time you go, they say, well, we didn't get to you today, go home. So you would go to Augusta, come back home. The next day you get there, they say, we'll start court. Your attorney can tell you for sure. You'll get there and they say, well, we got to you today, but we didn't finish with you today. So turn around, go back home, come back. What we've tried to do, every time this has happened before, what we've done is everybody rush around like chickens with their head cut off and try to say, oh, wait a minute, we don't want that to happen. So it was suggested, Judge Bowen strongly suggested we try to make everybody aware of it. And that's, I've kind of got volunteered, I guess you could say, to do that. But what we're asking everybody, what Judge Bowen's asked everybody, and he has been the trooper, he's been the trooper fighting this off every time. But just ask everybody to join what he's called the Dublin Division Association, just named for our division of the Southern District. There's no dues, no officers, no meetings, nothing that you have to do. Just would you be willing to sign up, give us your name and contact information, so that if they try to do this again, we can quickly get a message to everybody that, hey, they want to close the courthouse. I'm all for saving money, but right now what they do is the federal property is owned by the General Services Administration. General Services Administration owns that courthouse. They lease it to the judiciary. Okay, just like Dodge County might own the building the fire department's in and lease it to the volunteer fire department. Well, you can say we're going to close that and save money because we're not paying that lease anymore, but the General Services Administration, it's just moving money in the federal government from one pocket to another, so that's not really a savings. The savings they probably would get, I think, that's about $75,000. The other savings they get is the money they spend every year on the heat and air and upkeep of the building. The building's in fantastic shape right now. If it was falling apart, it'd be one thing. If you've ever been in that building, it is a beautiful, immaculate right now courthouse. Is the trips, the other thing they would save is the trips from Augusta to Dublin for the judge and the clerks and the personnel they have to bring, which is several people, but it costs everybody from here that money driving back and forth. So it ends up costing you taxpayers a lot more money to make those trips than it does for us to pay the taxes that it takes to pay the judges to come. So that's really all I've got. I don't want to talk too long. I can talk about it for a long time. It'd just be really inconvenient if you think anybody that's got to go to court or got to be a witness, or if you've ever been called to be on a federal grand jury, you know that happens. If you're on a federal grand jury, they meet repeatedly. Mr. Harrington's, I'm sure, has been if you're in the Southern District, you get appointed to some criminal cases, and right now, sometimes you end up going to Augusta, but a lot of times you can go handle it in Dublin. But if they did that, every time you had court, you drive all the way to Augusta and come back. So it'd just be a bad thing if they close it, I think. And that's like, again, that's really all I have. I've got a sheet I'd like to pass around. I could give it to the clerk. She could fill it in, whatever y'all, if y'all have any questions. If y'all don't have any questions, I'm through.
I think it also, There's not a clerk of court, there's not a judge sitting there all the time. There's no cost savings in closing that courthouse for the federal government and taxpayers by not having them there. In fact, the ASCS office is currently in there. There's a downtown post office currently in there.
They just closed the post office, but the ASC office is in there, and they just have to rent space somewhere else for those folks, you know, for the ASCS office and the agents and the workers, so.
I don't know what the sheriff's current plans are, but one of the nice things about having a brand new jail with lots of empty spaces in it is if it got qualified for federal services. Right now, they keep most of them in Swainsboro, but Swainsboro office is closed. Dodge County would be the closest place to house federal prisoners at $55 a day. I think that's what
Which is and I just can't tell you how much easier that is for the families involved, families of the people arrested. I mean, that's, you know, they're criminals, but they have families, they need to come see those folks, you know. There's just a lot of reasons to keep it here and very few that would lead you to want to move it. Would y'all like me to pass this around? Y'all want to do it now, or do you want me to just leave it with,
What y'all wanna do? Well, you can just leave it with the clerk, but, anybody got a question from the board is what I was gonna say. Okay. Right now, it's not gonna be closed, but this is for future
yes, and really,
topics that might come along.
and I forgot to say this, but really the main things you can do is, and they've moved us around. I don't know if y'all are in Austin Scott's district still, or they bumped us out and moved us to John Barry's district, but that's one thing. When you see, I know, Representative Scott, if you see him, say, hey, you know, this isn't happening now, but if you ever hear this is gonna happen, we really would not like our courthouse closed. We'd like to keep it open. You know, your state representatives, state senators, that's one thing that's been pointed out, is we don't know who knows somebody. Somebody in this room might be real good friends with one of our state senators, or, you know, in the future, or know the representative very well. Just put a bug in there that, yeah, we really don't want that courthouse closed.
Right. Okay. Well, thank you for coming, Nick. I appreciate it. Okay, this time we have bids on surplus vehicles. I believe this is Darrell Manning. He bids $800 on the Crown Vic 2000. It's got a phone number. And this is Morris Garage 2001 Crown Vic, $1,200.
Same car.
Okay. So both of them are the same vehicle. The high bid was Morris Garage of $1,200. Does anybody on the board want to make a motion?
They should take the high bid.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Have a second. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It's unanimous. Okay, we'll go to, do we have any other new business for the board? Okay, how about commissioner reports? Any meetings or anything y'all been to that y'all might want to discuss? Okay, we'll go to the county manager report, Mr. Bobby Peacock.
The only thing I have to report is, this guy that's the construction supervisor for Peter Brown Construction Company sent me an email last week, stating that the company that's supposed to ship the metal, well, he sent a copy of an email they had sent him saying that the metal would be here November 4th, which is about 2 weeks later than originally they said. And he'd have a crew here to unload the metal and to put it on. It would take about 2 weeks to install the roof.
Okay. Does anybody have any other questions then for the county manager? Okay, we'll go, I'll start over here. Do you have anything else, Mr. Manager? Okay. You on the back row over here, next row, first row. Anybody else got a question? Okay. Do you have anything else? We'll get a motion to adjourn. Got a motion, we have a second. Got a second, any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.